Welcome back to the Loss Prevention News Network. I'm Joe LaRocca. You know, industry experts estimate that organized retail crime losses exceed $30 billion annually. Public-private sector partnerships are well established in many areas, usually called ORCAs, and they're created to share intelligence, collaborate on investigations, and make our community safer. Today, I'm joined by 4 recognized leaders in ORC partnerships. Captain 3, John Romero, is the captain of the LAPD's Commercial Crimes Division. Detective Joe Hopkins is with the LAPD's Commercial Crimes Division and the LaRocca Law Enforcement Liaison. Sergeant Jim Ostojic is Lieutenant, did I say Sergeant?
Yes.
I'm sorry.
Okay.
Lieutenant, see, we promoted him between the last segment and this segment. Lieutenant Jim Ostojic with the Polk County Sheriff's Office in Florida, and Pete Zajda, who's the Western Region Director for Estee Lauder, and you have loss prevention and you have brand protection within your portfolio.
That's correct.
Right on. So, gentlemen, thanks for joining us today. We're going to have an in-depth discussion about law enforcement, organized retail crime, the partnerships, and what all of you do within that context. So, Pete, I'd like to start with you because you're in a very unique situation. You spent 30 years in law enforcement. You've now been in retail for 5 years. You've worked with JCPenney. You're now at Estee Lauder Company. So you have a very unique set of skills and experience. Tell us a little bit about what you found when you came into retail and maybe how you thought differently about the business and working with the public sector.
Well, I think first of all, coming from law enforcement, it's different structure and different culture. I think for me, understanding the challenges that law enforcement have today, whether it has to do with budgets, lack of manpower, shifting of priorities, and then working in retail, you have a different culture, more business side versus the loss prevention side. I mean, they do have that, but it's more than just that. So for me, when I look at what I bring to the table for the retail side, I understand what it takes to put a case together and how important partnerships and developing resources within retail to help law enforcement, because as a retired detective sergeant, I can tell you there are cases that just don't get worked because there's not enough manpower or time to do that. And I don't think a lot of people understand that. So as a retail, we have to do a better job of selecting cases that we have the most success that we can get, because we just don't have the resources in law enforcement. So that's where it comes into. Partnerships are really important for us. And I think in the last several years, we developed some great partnerships through the LaRocca. I attended the first one a few years ago when I was with law enforcement, and I was surprised at the amount of people that are there and working together. And I think it's since branched out to other areas of the country, which I think is important for everybody. It's not just for law enforcement, not for retail, it's for everybody. And I think because we were able to work together, we were able to have some serious impacts to our shrink for retail and also helping the public with reduction in crime.
Right. That's fantastic feedback, and it's so interesting the transition into the private sector. And you've recognized what so many ORC leaders have said, that it's really we own the problem. It's company losses. We also know the resources that we might have available within our own organization, but how willing other retailers are to share resources, intelligence, fill in those holes, as you will. Now, Captain Romero, within the Commercial Crimes Division, it's a huge influence you have within LAPD and scope of responsibility. I mean, most people in retail probably think of the organized retail crime, but you also have fraud, you also have cyber, and a whole host of other issues. Now, Pete talked about that need for the collaboration. How do you work with retail groups on in the other parts of your portfolio?
Well, just in a practical way, we get calls sometimes from around the nation. Recently, a school supply house called and said, "Hey, I'm shipping some real expensive toner cartridges, and they're getting diverted to an address in Los Angeles, and so we can turn on a dime and get resources to that location just on the word of a wholesaler, of a retailer, of a supply house." And there's not many entities that can do that. Patrol can't do that. They are working from the start of their watch to the end of their watch, and I have the ability to turn on a dime.
That's fantastic. And with that, the LAPD, in partnership with retailers and other agencies, created the LaOrca, the Los Angeles Area Organized Retail Crimes Association. And LaOrca has really become the largest of the ORCA programs anywhere in the country. Detective Hopkins, you're the law enforcement liaison, so you're working really hand in hand with so many of the different retailers. tell us a little bit about LaRocca. How do people actually get involved in the program or law enforcement? What is it that's required to make that happen?
Well, LaRocca is available to all of our retail partners and law enforcement. Obviously, we address some of the issues in the Los Angeles area, but we also branch out to assist in the entire state of California. So it's available to those who need assistance. I'm available to everyone, and I give out my email address, cell phone. It's everyone has it, and I'll be happy to give it here. My cell phone's 213-359-0250. You can contact me anytime you need assistance. If we can't help you at Commercial Crimes Division, at least I have a contact who may be able to assist you in the California area and also across the nation. So we extend that invitation to as many people, and we encourage your participation.
That's fantastic. You know, I grew up in the LA area. I started my career in Los Angeles, and for a decade or more, we couldn't even get a solid contact within the LAPD to respond to the private sector calls and the questions, the more complicated issues beyond a patrol inquiry. So what you're describing now is just music to retailers' ears. Yes. And as you know, so many have taken advantage of it, and hopefully people that are hearing this for the first time know that you really walk the walk. You're answering the phone, you're helping make contacts. I know from personal experience you've solved a number of cases just through those types of connections. Now, Lieutenant Ostojic, since the last time we met, you were a sergeant. You've taken on some expanded responsibility. Congratulations on your promotion. And within Florida, you have some programs that are not dissimilar from what we've been talking about in LA, but you're also the vice president now of the FLAORCA, the Florida Organized Retail Crime Association. Tell us a little bit about that program. How might it be a little bit different? What's your role in it, and what are the objectives?
Sure. Our board right now, one of the things that we wanted to concentrate on, when I started out with the Sheriff's Office, one of the things at Polk County we learned is building that alliance, working with retailers hand in hand. You know, we put them on the task force with us. So we did the same thing when we built the FLAORCA. So I'm the vice president on the law enforcement side, and we also have a vice president that's on the retail side. So our board is about 50-50 split, so we have that good working ability. So we cover the different areas of the state, so that way we break it down so we have representatives in each of the areas to get the help. So what happens a lot of times when we get contacts or people need to call us, just like Joe was just talking about, it's really important to not only just locally but nationwide. So they may have a case from Los Angeles in Florida, and I can send them a contact within minutes. And then in the old system, you used to have to wait to find out who the retailers were or find out who the law enforcement agency assist you, and we're going to have the access to be able to give that ability in just a matter of minutes by simply a click of the button.
Fantastic.
So we're going to have that coming up.
And so how do retailers get involved in your program?
Basically just by contacting me or any of the members of the board.
Okay.
You know, they can email me, or any access that we need to get in contact. It's not only do I participate in it, but the retailer side, most of them have the contacts on their side as well. So it works out well.
And I know you don't always share this information, but I love to. So Sheriff Grady Judd, who is in charge of your department, the chair of the Florida Sheriff's Association, soon to be the VP of the National Sheriff's Association, has really been a proactive partner with retailers, fighting the fight. He's very supportive of your training programs around the country. So isn't that interesting that we have the LAPD, one of Florida's largest county sheriff's agencies, and the head of the association there, really advocating for partnerships, not just in your own jurisdiction, but outside. And Pete, you alluded to this earlier about how these orcas have expanded. You got involved when you were in San Diego and you came up to LA, even though San Diego has its own orca program. Right. What benefits have you found by working in the different orcas? And from a retail perspective now, what would you tell people? What's the value? When they walk in the door, what types of things can they expect to learn or see?
Well, first of all, I mean, it's open to everybody in retail and law enforcement, and you see when you're there, you feel you're part of a team. Information's flowing, intelligence is gathering between different retailers, because if you're getting hit by a particular group of people, organized retail crime, and they might be hitting a similar retailer of the same type of merchandise, a lot of times law enforcement aren't aware of it. And here's a perfect opportunity for us to share the information amongst us, and so we can share information, help us with our background investigation, so when we do present a case to law enforcement, we have a better idea and a clearer picture of what we're trying to accomplish with law enforcement on those cases. And I think the biggest thing that I took away from going from law enforcement to the retail side was that, the question was, what are you guys doing for us, the cops? So what are you guys doing for our cases? And now I'm on the retail, so I'm saying, wait a minute, what can we do to help law enforcement? Because they're doing the best they can. I mean, there are a lot of things that we'd like to do, but we can't, and we have some issues that we have to work on. But as far as a retailer, I think there should be new legislation on new bills being passed around the country, because some states have ORC laws on the books, others don't. And with recent changes in California, it has definitely impacted the way law enforcement does business. So I think as a group, we should get together and get some new legislation to help give tools to law enforcement. And another thing I would like to do is educate. There's still departments out there that don't understand what investigations from retail bring to the table, because each retailer has different limitations. But I think as a team, we can still be a great resource for law enforcement and pick up some of the slack that they're not able to do, because as a detective sergeant, I know the caseloads that the detectives have. They're overwhelmed. There's a lot of things going on. So if we bring a case to law enforcement that is pretty complete, which is very similar to what they would be doing, it frees up time for them to look at these cases, and then we can get a better prosecution percentage out of it, because we understand what it takes to put it together, and we're there then. We're not there to replace officers, we're there to assist them if we can. And it's just another resource or tool for officers to use, plus all the equipment that retail have. I mean, I wasn't aware of some of the stuff, the high-tech stuff that retail had when they came to San Diego to help assist us with cases. And a lot of departments don't know about it. They still don't know, because retail has a lot more to offer if they just get the opportunity. And I think that's why these ORCAs are so important. And for me, it's a way to get the information out. And so now that I'm on the retail side, I'm reaching out to law enforcement so we can work together, because, hey, we're all on the same team. We're all trying to do the same thing. And what's good for me is good for law enforcement. We still have that impact. And the bottom line is that's what we're here to do. We have a job to do.
That's fantastic. And Captain Romero, Pete brought up an interesting point. He alluded to states that have ORC legislation, and congratulations to New York, who just passed some ORC laws there and signed by the governor last week. But then there's other states that have nothing, and in fact, in California, our home state, Prop 47, which was passed in November 2014, really wound the clock back in a way that decriminalized shoplifting. It took away any jail time from any offender below 950. Petty theft became a non-wobbler. You can't bump it up to petty with a prior. You can't turn it into a burglary if they have tools with them. Right. We really got boxed in, and the feedback I've heard from retailers and have read as a result of that, double-digit increases in some areas. And you recently were quoted in the news with some stats from LA. Can you share a little bit about what was the impact of Prop 47, and what are you seeing in general with this external crime in retail?
Well, Prop 47, people are reluctant to say that crime is up due to Prop 47. When crime is down, police get too much credit, and when crime is up, police get too much blame. And so we've been reluctant to say Prop 47 is the reason. But it's long past time to say Prop 47 is the reason why crime is up. And it's up in some hidden ways too. That when you decriminalize petty theft and the retailers stop calling police, it may appear that crime has gone down, which it didn't. It still went up. But there's a certain segment of those crimes that were never reported, and right. So even though it's up even more in those hidden areas. Right. And people want to say, should you be hard on crime or should you be soft on crime? People would generally say hard, but now they're saying no, we got to be smart on crime. And so the implication there is that if you're not for 47, then you're not smart. But it's just not true. It's so much more complicated than that.
Yeah. It almost masks it, that it's not being reported as often. And shoplifting, and I think the group might agree that it escalates. Nobody gets caught their first time. You right. never get caught your first time speeding. It's the 20th or 200th. And shoplifting works the same way as with repeat offenders, not with the opportunists, if you will. So it just escalates into these greater crimes. And the concern I hear from many retailers, tell me if you agree, is that a shoplifting case now escalates into a verbal altercation or a physical altercation, and in some cases under Prop 47, those are booked as a misdemeanor shoplifting case if they're even reported at all.
If reported at all.
If reported at all.
There is a huge tie-in too between mental illness and shoplifting.
Yes.
Mental illness is getting a lot of attention. Homelessness and shoplifting. Homelessness is getting a lot of attention, and we seem to be ignoring
Right.
shoplifting.
Yeah, it's a byproduct of some of those. They're the boosters they're the homeless, or they're the drug addicted. They're the vulnerable in society that the fence operators go to and put in their orders, and they wind up stealing the product. And Pete, does that fit in with some of what you've seen in law enforcement and then also in the
Of
private
course.
sector?
Yeah, because when you look at it, now that and let's face it, the crooks are smarter than we give credit to, believe it or not. When you look at the limit they put at $950, a lot of these professional boosters, as we call them in the retail world, they know that. They know the policies better than the officers do and the loss prevention people, because they've done it over and over and over. And so when they are picked up or get arrested, depending on which state you're in and how they process it, they're in and out the door before the officer gets done with his paperwork. And that's to me, it's frustrating as an officer, because you're trying to do what's right, but you're limited to what you can do.
Right.
And then on the retail side, you keep seeing the same people over and over, and you're frustrated with law enforcement because their hands are tied and it's the same people. And then you try to be creative on how to put these people away, and it's just, you keep seeing the same people over and over. And I think we have to look at other ways to deal with it, and I think legislation is part of it. And I think they didn't consider the impact that these people are having on our economy, along with, when you look at the big picture, these crimes are gateway crimes to other crimes.
Right.
Because most of the people that are doing the thefts are involved in organized crime, where it starts out as petty theft, it goes into credit card fraud, goes into drugs, and there's a lot of things that it has an impact. And you just took away a tool, a valuable tool for law enforcement, by reducing that type of a crime.
Right.
It really did have an impact. A lot of people won't say it, but it's true. I can tell you, based on the numbers of other retailers around the country, that their shrink has gone way out of sight, and there's not much we can do other than just do the best we can do and look at ways that we can limit the amount of liability that we will have as retailers.
That makes sense. Lieutenant Ostojic, sorry. I promise someday I'm going to get this right and nail it the first time. In Florida, you're nationally known for closing some of the largest ORC cases in the country. And you've seen these problems. I know we've talked about it in other sessions. How does this line up with what you see in Florida and some of the transient groups and some of the professional booster rings?
Sure. Well, our threshold right now is $300, so it's not, as high it is. But what we've found is that we take a proactive approach in Polk County, and we take every person that we catch to jail. So we don't give the notice to appears, through the sheriff's office. We arrest them, and what we find is it's a great intelligence basis for us. And not only that, we actually have a reduction in crime in our county, for the last several years. And I really feel like it's, taking the small steps and looking at the small crimes, or I really wouldn't say small. Every crime is a crime, but we take that information and we build on that. And if we don't take that small crime serious, then people, start getting more lax and lax and lax. And that's why we try to take it and we handle it at the lower level. And that, fortunately for us, our theft rate is still at $300, and I think that really helps out a lot.
We could only dream that our rate was at $300 again. Last question for you. You have a FLAORCA conference coming up. The dates?
That's correct. It's going to be July 29th in Orlando, Florida.
Okay. And you can sign up through the website, which is FLORCA.
It's FLAORCA, yes.
FLAORCA.com.
Yes, or contact Tom Jackson with the Florida Retail Federation.
Excellent. Detective Hopkins, last question, final question for you. The LaOrca conference is coming up. It's in partnership with LEAPS, which is a very well-known organization in the LA area. Can you tell us what date it will be and how to get involved?
Yeah, but just a little correction with that.
Yes,
this
sir.
is our first annual CALORCA conference.
CALORCA, excuse me.
No,
Thank
no
you.
problem. So obviously we've overcome a lot of obstacles in trying to create CALORCA, and I'm happy to say that we've been successful. We've also seen a decline with orcas in California. So CALORCA was created to address the underserved areas and to assist the local orcas. So I'm very happy to say that the CALORCA conference will be September 27, 2016. Again, it's going to be at the Pasadena Convention Center, and we welcome all attendees.
Great. And to sign up, it's?
Yeah, through the CALORCA website, www.cal-orca.org.
Great. Excellent. Gentlemen, thank you so much for spending some time with us. This is Captain 3 John Romero with the LAPD Commercial Crimes Division, Detective Joe Hopkins with LAPD's CCD unit, and the law enforcement liaison for LaRocca/CALORCA, Lieutenant Jim Ostojic with the Polk County Sheriff's Office, fabulous guy, and Pete Zajda with Estee Lauder Company, does loss prevention, Western Region Director for Loss Prevention and Brand Protection. Thank you all for joining. Thanks all of you for tuning into the Loss Prevention News Network, your #1 source for LP news and information.